Levent waits eagerly as his flat here in Gaziantep is inspected.
I'm one of the lucky ones. I've been living in a hotel since the earthquake happened.
Up on the third floor, this woman told us they moved back in before the building was checked.
We were on the street, sleeping in a car for 2 days. After that, at a friend's shop, we came home after gas in the city was put back on.
Civil engineers like Abdul Kadir Livioglu are checking buildings to see whether they need repairing, demolishing, or are okay. First stop is always the basement to check the load-bearing foundations.
If it needs to get demolished, it takes about 5 or 10 minutes, because when we see damage means that demolish, we are just finishing the test, the procedure, and telling that this is a heavily damaged building, so it needs to get demolished.
But this one's okay. You think this building will stand?
It is more than okay.
Lucky for the people here, although the third earthquake, which hit the region 15 days after the first two, is causing concerns. After the initial quakes, nearly 1 million buildings in this region of Turkey were checked, and over 118,000 had fallen down or were being marked for demolition. Over 100 building contractors are being investigated in Turkey for allegedly sidestepping earthquake building regulations. No government officials, though. Tens of thousands of this city's inhabitants are waiting to hear if their homes are safe. People like Nawa and her family, who fled Syria and had made a new home in Gaziantep.
Our home is cracked. We can't go back. We took this backpack and fled. Inside, I had just few clothes for the children. I also gave birth in the car after the earthquake.
Rebuilding in southern Turkey isn't just a construction project, it's now a humanitarian necessity.
And for more on this, I am joined now by Arwa Damon in the Turkish city of Gaziantep. She is the president of the International Network for Aid, Relief and Assistance and also a former CNN correspondent. Welcome to the program, Arwa. Your organization is providing assistance to those affected by the earthquake. What are the biggest challenges right now?
Logistics are very difficult. Trying to meet everybody's needs is incredibly challenging. You have to realize that no organization, no country has really faced this level of devastation on this scale or this level of instantaneous need. We're talking about millions of people who, from the moment that first earthquake struck, were rendered homeless. And many of them have no means to get basic necessities. So we're talking about everything from sanitary pads to toothbrushes to coloring books for children to tents. And yes, there's this huge effort that is taking place on the ground right now, but it is really being eclipsed by the sheer magnitude of the need out there that exists, and the dynamics are constantly changing. That earthquake that struck, again, the aftershock just a few days ago, it changed dynamics on the ground to a certain degree, because families who had initially felt safe enough to be indoors all of a sudden spilled back out onto the streets again. We saw a movement of displaced people taking place in the days following that aftershock. That also has created a new need, a new group of individuals who now also, once again, need the basics, from shelter to just being able to get by day.
That's the situation in Turkey. We're hearing the situation on the Syrian side is even worse. What have you been hearing?
The situation on the Syrian side is incomparable, because everything that we are talking about, whether it's international rescue teams who first showed up, whether it's aid flooding in, whether it's those teams that you just showed the report on going around checking buildings, trying to determine whether or not they're livable, none of that exists inside Syria. There is no infrastructure. People died inside Syria because there wasn't fuel to run heavy machinery, because there wasn't enough heavy machinery. Hospitals were destroyed, rendered unfunctionable, and yet Teams struggle to set up replacement field facilities to be able to meet that need. We've been working with partner organizations inside Syria, and there it's really just about providing shelter and trying to make sure that people are, at least relatively speaking, fed. The aid going into Syria has been so severely, unconscionably lacking that this is a situation where we as a global community are going to have to look back on and say, how do we make sure that this doesn't happen? How do we make sure that millions of people are not cut off from underlying issues or whatever the other challenges were that prevented aid from reaching Syria? Because even right now, as I sit here speaking to you, Syria is not getting nearly enough of what it needs.
Okay, Arwa Damon joining us from Gaziantep in Turkey. We thank you so much for that perspective. We appreciate it.
The earthquakes in Turkey and Syria have left a staggering trail of destruction, with houses and buildings reduced to rubble. For some, the earthquakes are yet another cruel twist of fate. We're about to meet Mazhar from Syria. He fled to Turkey to escape the civil war. Mazhar settled in the city of Antakya, near the border to his home country. He felt safe from the violence that has plagued Syria for more than a decade. But now, Mazhar's place of refuge has also become a place of personal tragedy.
Mazhar's sister Sevsin has been found. He rushes over to the ruin that until recently was her apartment. Syrian friends of Mazhar's in Turkey discovered Sevsin and her husband crushed under the rubble of the second floor. Both are dead. Mazhar had already feared the worst. He'd been searching for a sign of life in this building in Antakya, southeast Turkey, for days without success. And now he has only the certainty.
Please don't tell anyone else. We haven't told anyone so far. We'll recover them first.
But the recovery operation proves difficult. Mazhar and his friends make slow progress with a borrowed jackhammer. They don't even expect any help from the authorities. A friend brings a wool blanket over to wrap the body in. Sevsin will later have a proper burial.
We had worked through to the bedroom. First, we were able to see part of my brother-in-law, and then my sister. They lay in each other's arms in death.
Mazhar had fled the civil war in Syria to Turkey with his parents and siblings. Now he lives in Istanbul. His sister Sevsin taught Syrian refugee children in Antakya.
My sister was such a good person, full of love. It's so sad that she had to die, but it's Allah's will.
But Mazhar and his friends tell us the situation looks much worse on the other side of the border in Syria. Many of his relatives are thought to have lost everything.
As if the war weren't bad enough, the people there get virtually no help at all. Here at least, someone comes by now and then and brings something to eat or offers their help.
It took them about 7 hours to recover the bodies of Sevsin and her husband.
We came here to live in safety. Things turned out differently, and now we have to live with that.
Sevsin and Mahmoud's bodies are transported away from the house in Antakya, where they had dreamed of a peaceful life.